Alrighty, alrighty-diddly. This is a video where I'm going to be going over all the movies that I saw in August of 2020. Yeah, I saw a lot of movies this month, and I've wanted to do this for a few months now, but I've never seen enough movies in a month to justify a video. But let me count how many. I'm going to be reading off my phone a lot for this video. Pretty sure I saw 29 movies. I could be wrong. 28, which is plenty to justify a video of this size. And I hope to see as many movies next month as I saw this month and every month after that, so that I can keep doing this series. But basically this video is just going to be me going through and talking about all the movies and what I thought. Some of them I saw for the first time, some of them I rewatched just because I wanted to. For some movies I'm going to have more to say than other movies, and that's just kind of the nature of the thing. Yeah, let's get into it. So the first movie I saw this month was Joker. I'm going to have more to say about this movie really soon, hopefully, if progress on this next video is any good. But suffice it to say, I just think the movie's all right. There's a lot to appreciate about it, but there's also a lot to criticize. I think the characters are really two-dimensional, and, I just ultimately think the movie doesn't have a whole lot to say. But Joaquin Phoenix is really good. The cinematography is not bad. Yeah, it's good. Then I saw The King of Comedy. This is probably my favorite Robert De Niro movie. Again, I'm going to have more to say when this new video I'm working on comes out, because I draw a lot of comparisons between this and Joker and Taxi Driver. That's why I made the videos, because they're so similar. Yeah, I just thought it was really good, and I've seen it a few times now. I saw it earlier this year for the first time, and I've just kind of rewatched it a lot since then. Yeah, if you haven't seen King of Comedy, go check it out. It's really, really good. Then I saw Taxi Driver, which was depressing. Then I saw the Twilight saga. I worked my way through those masterpieces. Their scores should be here. Let's just say expect something great this Halloween. Then I saw Eternal Sunshine. This was really refreshing after watching the Twilight movies, because it's an actual well-told love story. Jim Carrey's really good. Kate Winslet is really good, of course. This is probably my favorite Charlie Kaufman movie. Sorry, Synecdoche, New York. I'm probably never going to watch you again. Michel Gondry directs the movie, and I think he was just perfect for the script. Every choice that Gondry makes in presenting the story feels really purposeful. It's abstract while getting the point across in a really understandable and creative and unique way. And even now, just thinking about the movie weeks after I saw it, I just can visualize so many scenes from the film that I enjoyed, without much effort at all. So yeah, really great movie. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing, because it's on Netflix. Borrow your parents' Netflix, watch the movie. Okay, then I watched the SpongeBob This movie's great. It capitalizes on everything that makes the TV show so good, whilst, turning in a story that it's like an episode of SpongeBob, but the character arc of SpongeBob is really delved into. We don't really ever get that in the TV show. We just kind of understand his character. He goes through a funny little thing in the episode, and then it's over. But in this movie, he goes through a whole arc, and that was interesting to see as a kid, and it still works at 21 years old, maybe because I'm not fully grown up, but I don't think so. I just think the movie is that good, and it's a great hand-drawn animated film. We don't get a lot of those anymore, and that's the last one I remember really loving. I liked Princess and the Frog and a couple other movies like that came out since, but this was the last one I truly loved that was hand-drawn. Speaking of good animation and groundbreaking, SpongeBob wasn't groundbreaking, Anyway, say what you want. Toy Story, that's what I'm trying to say, is the next movie. It still holds up. It's a great work of animation. It's a great just story. It's a good buddy comedy, which was unique. And I watched a lot of the special features, and I watched these guys talk about how they didn't want to make just a standard animated film, as was customary at the time. They didn't want to do a fairy tale. They didn't want to do a musical. They wanted to do a buddy comedy, and it works. It's a great story about these two characters. Even though the animation is primitive by today's standards, and we've seen more scaled up animation since then. Compared to Toy Story 4, which I haven't seen since it came out. Like, there's a reason that it works for Toy Story, is because Toy Story was the first to do it, and if you made those textures realistic, it doesn't really fit. The animation in Toy Story 4 was good, but it was groundbreaking in Toy Story, and it still holds up. Beyond that, it's just a good story, and I don't think it would have resonated at all if it hadn't been a good story. So that's what's so great about Toy Story. You've probably seen it by now, but if you haven't, what the fuck are you doing? Then I saw Project Power, which, to be honest, I already forgot most of. It's got Jamie Foxx. He's like a ex-soldier. He just kind of plays Jamie Foxx. I've got notes down, but I'm just trying to remember this from memory. The main character is like a girl who raps. She was good. I forget the actress's name. Joseph Gordon-Levitt gives a really like bizarre performance. Other than that, the acting's really bad. Machine Gun Kelly's in the movie, which is really distracting. I don't know what he was doing. So was fucking Casey Neistat. It's really bland, but honestly, if this is the kind of movie that you like, if you really love superhero movies, no matter what they are, you'll probably like this one. It's kind of an interesting concept. If you like bland action movies, you'll like this one. If you like Jamie Foxx movies, you'll like this one. As for me, then I saw Buffalo 66, and I loved it. This movie is so bizarre and so indie and so strangely presented. It's just so unique. Like, that's the only way to describe it. It's just a unique film. You know, apparently this guy, Vincent Gallo, who wrote, directed, and starred in the movie, is just like a huge asshole. But he's really good at playing this character, and he really had a purpose when he directed this movie and a vision. And, you know, sometimes that's what artists are like. That's sometimes who artists are. Not me. I don't like being like that. But that was Vincent Gallo, and honestly, in this case, I think it was for the better. I'm not saying he was right to be a dick, but I think as a result of him being a dick, he got his vision across. You get this story about this super weird, lonely, disturbed dick of a person, and you kind of fucking hate him at the beginning, but like, you warm up to him and you understand what made him like that. And it's just interesting. Like, it's a really interesting character study, and it's weird. It's cool, very much an indie film. So if you can find Buffalo 66, I recommend it. Then I watched South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and yeah, it's as good as I remember it being. It's hilarious. It's a logical progression, like SpongeBob, of the show, and it's an upgrade in every sense. It's a great commentary on censorship. It's a really fun musical. It's got all the characters and jokes that you would expect from South Park, but it's just expanded into a film. You know, the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, you know, and I didn't really appreciate it as much as I do now, coming back to it. I do think it's a really good film, and like, I think it's one of the better TV show movies that I've seen, and we'll get into a couple more of those, but it really nailed what it was going for, and that's what I appreciated about it so much. It's really easy to revisit. It's got everything you want from South Park and everything you want in a movie. It's well-rounded. And then I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah, I liked it. I feel like I've only seen bits and pieces of this movie up until this recent viewing, and now that I've seen the whole thing, it's good. It was cool to sit down and watch the whole thing, and like, the integration of live action and animation, groundbreaking at the time, and still really holds up now. It's an almost seamless effect, and you can tell some places, like the part where he's got the animated gun, like you can see him walking, and instead of having it, he's got like a plastic replica of the gun, which I kind of liked. Stuff like that is happening throughout the film. It's trying to be more adult and more mature than your average kids film, and in that way I think it succeeds, but it could have gone further. I feel like I kept expecting it to go further. I didn't love the writing all the time, but for the most part I really liked the script, and I think it has a great sense of humor. Yeah, I recommend it. Also, Christopher Lloyd is fucking horrifying in that movie.
When I kill your brother, I talk. Just wait.
Watched How to Train Your Dragon. This was disappointing. I found it to be very painfully average and at times kind of corny. It's got a really good visual aesthetic, I'll say that. I'll stand by that, and I've stood by that for as long as I've liked this movie. And it's not a bad movie. Like, don't get that from what I'm saying. It's not. It's a kid's movie, and it's very much a DreamWorks movie. It's got all those kind of like DreamWorks isms, if that makes sense. It doesn't really do anything for me as a fucking senior in college. It like reincorporates jokes. There are a lot of kids movies that do that. Like Lilo and Stitch does that a couple times. That's something I feel like too many kids movies have relied on, is the reincorporation of lines and jokes for the sake of a kid going, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I don't like that. It's not funny. It just feels kind of like cringy. Movies like the SpongeBob movie or Toy Story or like any of these great animated films from over the years, like The Lion King doesn't really do this. Like, it's just not necessary. And I feel like you can make a better movie without that. And I feel like I've always felt that way, but I've never been able to pinpoint what it was about it that I disliked. And I just think it feels kind of corny, especially as an adult seeing these movies. Anyway, yeah, I still like it, just not as much as I remember. Then I saw Twisted Pair, but y'all know about that.
I don't care. I don't want you anymore.
Nothing about this movie is right. Very entertaining. Then I rewatched the Simpsons movie, which I'm pretty sure was the first Simpsons thing I ever saw, because it was just, like, it was marketed towards kids, weirdly, because this is it's a TV show that was kind of geared towards adults. And it's different from South Park and SpongeBob and their movies, because this movie came out long after The Simpsons had already been successful. And in a way, the SpongeBob movie and the South Park movie, also like the regular show movie was one that was like this, where it was like a natural build-up to, okay, now let's do a movie. It was in a way capitalizing on the success of the show. But this had come out long after the show had dropped off in quality, because I remember watching this movie and then going to watch an episode of The Simpsons and being like, this is kind of lame. And the episodes that made the show really good are way in the past, and honestly are nothing like this movie, because I've been rewatching The Simpsons and really enjoying it, and the movie is not as good. It's a lot more childish and a lot more stupid, but it was very successful, this movie. I like the movie. It's just kind of dumb, and like you gotta strap in for that if you're gonna watch a Simpsons thing, anything. But the thing that I think the movie still captures was the sense of humor in the world that The Simpsons takes place in. All the adult characters are very cynical and backhanded and like not an altruistic bone in their body. It's very much an underhanded tone. And I feel like that's still present in The Simpsons movie. It's present in the TV show as well, of just like these not good people. Like the other two movies, South Park and SpongeBob, and regular show as well. It's iterating on what made the show successful. I also like that it's in widescreen. I don't know why, I kind of appreciate that. I saw Zodiac. Holy shit, this movie. It's such a fucking ride. Like, it's just honestly so good. Why didn't I see this movie sooner? Like, holy shit, Zodiac. It's David Fincher, so, you know, most of what he touches is good, besides like Alien 3. But it's just fucking incredible. Like, it's such an interesting look at this serial killer, and it was like scary and interesting, and it's a mystery, and you're like on the edge of your seat for the whole time. Like, how the fuck are they gonna catch this guy? Holy crap. It's a long movie, but you don't feel the length really. You sort of do towards the end. You're like, damn, how long is this movie? But you're still with it, because there's always something happening. They're always learning something. It's just awesome. It's awesome. It's got a great cast. Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, Chloe Sevigny. Everyone does a good job. The pace of the film is so quick. Like, scenes don't take longer than they need to, which I really appreciated about the movie. This is something that's present in almost all of David Fincher's movies, but his use of visual effects is really, really well integrated. That's the background that he came from. It really shows, and it really makes the movie that much more investing, if that makes sense. It just fucking works. Like, The same can be said of Fight Club. Yeah, Zodiac, man. It's so fucking good. Again, it's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Speaking of movies that are on Netflix, I saw Jimmy Neutron, and it was kind of bad. I was just trying to see movies based on cartoons, and I'm not gonna lie, this one was hard to sit through. This one's different in the sense that it came out before the show happened, and so the show capitalized on the movie. What is it about this movie? Like, the animation, I don't love the animation. I feel like it could have been a lot better presented in like a 2D animation, but it's kind of antiquated and of its time, and for that reason it's really memorable. I don't really like any of the characters besides Carl. Like, Carl's the best character, and it's just because he's like funny. I just like Carl. He's just a funny fucking character. One of the most interesting aspects of the movie to me was, if you watch the movie, you'll notice that it has a film grain over it. And I think what happened is they rendered the whole movie and then they printed it on film stock, and then that was what went to theaters. But then the final master that went to video was also on film stock. And so we just have this CG animated movie printed on film stock, and that's the final render of the film. It makes the movie look a lot better, and it kind of hides the imperfections in the animation. The soundtrack is very dated, but awesome. Jimmy, Jimmy. Then I rewatched The Irishman. It's fucking sick. I love The Irishman. You might be saying, Sam, why did you watch a fucking 3.5 hour movie again that you've already seen? And the answer is because The Irishman is fucking awesome. I'm biased. I will fully admit that I'm biased. And, you know, everyone's opinion, all my opinions on these are subjective. If anyone tells you they're objective, they're fucking lying, because that's not how opinions work. There's more bias behind this opinion of mine than pretty much any other one, because I waited for this movie, like, it was announced, in like 2013? And I was waiting for this fucking movie forever. I was so excited for it to come out. I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and fucking waiting for this movie. Because I was like really young at the time compared to now. Like 6 years or so. Somewhere in there I lost interest a little bit because I was growing up. I was going through middle and high school. And then I left middle and high school. And then my junior fucking year of college, this movie comes out. Of course I'm gonna see it. Even though I was kind of like, there's a chance this might not be good. They're using digital de-aging effects. I was so ready to see this movie. And yeah, I wasn't disappointed. It was fucking awesome. You're just not gonna get one of these movies anymore. Like, Martin Scorsese's not gonna make another one of these. This big ensemble cast for a gangster movie. It's one of those things that doesn't come along that often, and it probably won't come along again until someone is really inspired. It's everything I could have wanted from a movie of this caliber. And I have a few gripes with it, like some of the editing is not good. There are some digital zooms that just don't belong in this movie. Like, why are they, it's some shit out of a YouTube video. The de-aging looks really good, but you can kind of still tell that all these actors are really old motherfuckers. I would have just cast someone younger for that part of the movie. Spike Jonze took it was a children's picture book, and he took this really interesting, personal, mature interpretation of it, which I don't think any other filmmaker would have been willing to do. And he really knew how to interpret and convey what he felt about the story. Across the board, performances are good. The child actor, Max Records, he just gives a really surprising performance. You don't see a lot of child actors who manage to just nail being a kid. I used to work at a summer camp, and he reminds me of a kid that I had at summer camp. What it was like to interact with him, and it was like seeing the world through this kid's eyes. And all the other characters are just so well acted. Like, the mother is very realistic, and like, you really feel for her, even though she's not in it very long. She's played by Catherine Keener, who just can do no wrong. You get these great performances from like James Gandolfini, Paul Dano, Forrest Whitaker. Who else is in this movie? The fucking mom from Home Alone. Mark Ruffalo's in it for like a second. I love the presentation of it. Most of it's shot handheld, which makes it feel very personal, unstable, but very true to life. It just kind of feels like being right next to this kid and seeing what he's seeing. Spike Jonze had the option to go for an animated feature, but he chose to do it live action because he felt that it needed to be real and dangerous to be with these wild things. The colors are very muted and brown, which goes with kind of the feel and theme of the movie. It made me laugh at points, made me cry at points, mostly cry. It was really great to revisit this one, but I'm not going to revisit it for a very long time. Then I watched The Little Mermaid. I remember being young and just thinking this movie was like dumb shit for girls, because that's what's like drilled into your young boy brain. I surprised myself because I was like, you know what I should see? The Little Mermaid. It's just weird that I just didn't think I would ever say that. Despite that, I enjoyed it. It's a really good movie. The animation, holy shit. There are so many sequences where I just like audibly gushed, and I was alone in my fucking room. That should tell you a thing or two about how good this fucking animation is and how well it's aged. I'm always gonna think 2D animation looks great, but like especially looks good in this movie. The vocal performances, it's all so good. This is one of the films that Disney did where the voice actors are both singing and acting, so it's pretty fortuitous that they're all good. My favorite has to be Pat Carroll as Ursula. Dude, she's fucking so funny in this movie. She benefits from having this great voice, and you can tell the animators had a field day with her. It just elevates the movie to that legendary status for me. The thing about this movie, though, is that the story leaves something to be desired. It's a good story, but it's the common criticism from the people who like Disney movies and want to see them progress, that our female characters, our princesses, have no agency in their story. And that's very valid, and it's true of this movie. Like, she's always being saved by the sacrifices and action of the men in her life, and it kind of irked me seeing it in this movie because you just don't really see that nowadays. And that was a criticism that Frozen, I don't like Frozen very much. It's a good movie, I respect it, I just don't like it. But that movie subtly critiques that in these Disney princess movies. Anyway, it's not a feminist movie, to say the very least. This is likely going to be addressed in the incredibly unnecessary remake that they're going to make for money, because there's no reason to make this movie at all except for the purpose of, oh, look, this movie that I enjoy is being remade and now I should go see it, and then I'm going to love it because I love the original. And there's no reason for Disney to ever put effort into these movies because all they're going to do is make money. Then I saw Smiley Face with Anna Faris. This is the best movie about someone getting stoned ever. It just captures the day in the life of someone who just wakes up, gets high, is high all day, and like it's a comedy, so obviously everything she gets into is more extreme than a normal stoner's day. But that's part of what makes it funny, and you just see her make bad decision after bad decision, and it's so fucking funny. Holy shit. I don't know how much there is to say. Anna Faris is really good. The directing it's not something you might expect for a movie of this kind, but the directing's really good. They use like animation. Sometimes it's not good animation, but this script is just like so clever. It didn't get a great critical or audience reception at the time or even now, but I think it's clever because it's not doing it like a Seth Rogen stoner comedy where it's like accessible to absolutely everyone. I think in order to really appreciate this movie, you have to either know someone who has gotten stoned all the time or to just get stoned a lot yourself, whether that was in the past or currently. I think it's a funny movie regardless. You just kind of have to be familiar because that's the only way to really understand this character. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think a movie is made better when you're stoned. I just don't think that's the right way to consume art. Like, I just think every movie should be able to stand up on its own while you're sober. But this one probably would benefit if you're stoned or understand what getting stoned is like. That's just who it's written for. Not a whole lot else to say. It's a really funny stoner comedy. I recommend it. The last movie I watched this month was Transformers the movie, and this was the last in a series of movies that I had wanted to see that were based off of cartoons. And yeah, I liked it. It's like the most 80s movie of all time. It's got this fucking kick-ass music, old animation, corny dialogue, everything is so 80s, right down to this like female character who's really badly designed. Wow, a lot of feminism in this video. Can you give me some feminism points? I could use some feminism points right now. This movie, in the purest sense, I think, is a love letter to the Transformers TV show. In another sense, it's kind of a cash-in on the TV show, because part of it was to introduce this whole new cast of characters to sell toys. That's always kind of what this show has been. And I think everything has been amped, like the South Park movie, like the SpongeBob movie, like the Simpsons movie, like any of these movies. Everything has been cranked up to 10. The one-liners, the animation, the cool character designs. The plot, as the film progresses, becomes a lot more rushed as it kind of speeds into the third act. And the other thing about this plot is that the characters don't really go through anything. When Optimus Prime dies and Hot Rod picks up the matrix of leadership and it glows when it's in his hands, it's like, oh, he's gonna get it and then he's gonna become the... They made it so obvious. Like, there's no subtlety in this movie at all. And so there's kind of no character to speak of for any of these characters. The weird thing is, the most character in this movie is in fucking Galvatron, and he's the villain, which is super weird. It's got a lot of great, like, voice cameos. The most infamous being Orson Welles, who kind of looked down on this movie as, like, dumb kids shit, which it is, but I'm pretty sure it was like the last film role he ever had. But I think it's funny that he's fucking talking about this movie being beneath him. Roll the clip.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence.
Yeah, and that's everything I watched in August. I'll be honest, this summer fucking sucked. I shouldn't have left home. I just kind of spent it alone watching movies and working at a job that I hate. But now that's over. I'm not living alone, I'm living with my friends. I'm quitting this fucking job and getting a new one. But the one thing I can say that was good that came out of the summer was this. If I hadn't had a space like this one to just do my own thing in and not feel like I'm bothering everyone I live in the house with, or that I've got to work around other people's noise, that was what was nice about living alone, was I was able to just start my YouTube channel and feel like, okay, now I can get it started, kind of thing. I'm hoping to do a lot more with this channel soon. I've got a couple things, cooking. As I said, I'm doing a Joker review. Got a couple more things cooking. Anyway, I love you. I'm glad you're here watching these. Hoping to bring you more good stuff real soon.
Ah, the French